is not just about success. We are looking deeper to what it takes to actually move from point A to point B. We're looking at the discipline, we're looking at the system, and our guest today is someone who has actually been building systems for over a decade. And we want to know how exactly is he able to overcome the obstacles from when you're moving from a beginner, or what we would call an underdog, to being where he is today. So one more time, allow me to welcome Kelvin Kuria. Thank you so much for joining us.
Asante sana, thank you so much.
How are you though?
I am amazing. I'm amazed at what you guys have done with TV47. Well done to all of you.
Oh, thank you.
It's coming together.
Yes.
Coming together quite nicely.
Na tunachapa story yetu hapa. So be ready for your story today.
Yeah.
You have over a decade of experience inside the engine room of African business. From commercial director, where was that?
At African Originals.
And then what were you doing at Unilever?
I did multiple jobs. So my last job was the Unilever International Head of Region for East Africa.
And you're leading the Commercial Club of Africa right
and
now.
Today I am the CEO and founder of Commercial Club of Africa and Kenya School of Sales.
Kenya School of Sales.
Yeah.
Which has a very interesting accreditation, right?
Yeah.
With the ISP UK?
Yeah.
It's accredited, right?
Institute of Sales Professionals in the UK. Because we couldn't find an accrediting body here, so we sort of had to go globally to find, if you want to give good quality, credible education to salespeople on the African continent, who is a person to do the accreditation? We couldn't find anybody here, so the closest we could find was this body called ISP, which is run by a good friend of mine called Guy. He's become a good friend of mine now. And yeah, and the beauty about doing it that way is we gave him all our content. And so pretty much everything we teach has gone through a very thorough quality control process.
Oh.
To make sure that we're not just, blabbing and blubbering in class, that, there's a process and a quality control, that the material is up to standard, that the examples make sense, that the tools we use are actually useful as well, that we are continuously improving as well. We actually had a call with them today to discuss 2026, 2027. So it's very fresh.
Hey,
it's very fresh.
But it's moving.
No, it is.
The wheel is really spinning.
It is.
Would you consider yourself a sales guru?
Salesman, for sure. Right? Salesman, for sure. Experienced salesman, I think, yes. Guru is in the making. Maybe one day I will be, but salesman for sure.
When you look at yourself, or when you look back to that little boy in Subukia, and you see where he is today,
in TV47.
In TV47.
Talking about sales. Yeah.
So what do you see when you look back to that little boy in Subukia?
So I was always a very, very businessy guy. So I let me give you a quick example.
Okay.
So when I finished high school, my dad bought me a desktop computer. One of those big hump desktops, right?
Yes, correct.
And he told me it was his excuse to not take me to computer college, because he told me I can either take you to computer college or buy you a desktop computer. And I was like, it's fine, buy me, I will figure it out. So I actually I'm probably one of the few people that did not go to an actual computer college. You know how you study computer packages?
Yes,
MS-DOS,
Excel,
etc. What I ended up doing is, I remember I started, so I was an usher in my class, in my church, sorry. And you know how, I don't know what church you go to, but we were Catholics, we still are. And when you go to the Catholic church, they give you a pamphlet with all the readings of the day, etc. My first business was printing those pamphlets for the church.
How old were you? I
was 17. I just finished high school. And so what's the point I'm making? The point I'm making is I've always been a very businessy person. So when I look back, I always, how you ask kids, what do you want to be when you grow up, right? And kids have these beautiful things of, I want to be a pilot or an engineer, etc. I just wanted to go to university in Nairobi, and I think deep down I just wanted to be a business person. I just wanted to sell stuff. So it didn't really matter what as long as I was in Nairobi, I knew I would make it.
What level of influence did parenting have? Because I can see if your father is already influencing you to think outside the box, to be more creative with your own work, even with your studies. This is like a cool kid from Subukia, this one.
So first of all, my dad and my mom were both, so they retired last year, but they were both teachers. And my dad was a full-on disciplinarian. He was, when the disciplinary teachers are on duty, everybody is in class on time. So my dad was one of those guys. And sometimes I look at him and I wonder what exactly was wrong with him, because we would leave the same house at whatever time, and he would get to school a few minutes earlier than me. And because I was late, I would get punished just like all other students that came in late. So to answer your question, what is the impact of parenting? I think being raised in a family by teachers, I think has had a lot of impact in who I am today. I do a lot of teaching today. I think my calling in life is quite honestly to be a teacher.
Lovely.
And I do think I am a teacher because that's all I saw my parents doing. I think they were both teachers, 35 years each. So combined, they have 70 years of teaching experience. I think it's only fair that they take the family legacy forward.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
I was just looking at you and thinking of the image that comes to mind when people think of a salesperson. Because I remember just after high school, being a salesperson was a thing. Like you would apply and you would start selling stuff, and they always wanted you to wear a suit, tie, and walk on the streets in the scorching heat.
So how am I doing?
Representing them fully. You're representing them fully, but who is a salesman in your opinion? How would you describe a salesman? That's
a good question. Who is a salesman? What do I think? Or woman, for that matter, right?
Yes.
Who is a salesperson? I think a salesperson so I have two definitions. I have the what I think is a Kelvin real noble definition of a salesman or woman. I think there's a definition of what the world has made a salesman to be. So let's start with my Kelvin definition, which I think is what a salesman should be. I think a salesman is someone who provides value and who provides, I actually really believe at the root of my being that a salesperson is supposed to provide solution. And a salesperson is really a vehicle through which solutions pass to customers or consumers or clients. That's actually what I think a salesperson is. But in this day and age, what salespeople have been made to be this very transactional, very one-time, very, buy this, get this kind of person. And I do think that the job we have to do, forgive the sermon, the job we have to do is to move salespeople from this very transactional, very one-off, very today, buy X for X discount or buy this and I'll give you this, which I think is a base level of salesmanship, into moving to really thinking about what is a problem that the consumer is facing, what is a problem that the customer is facing. And it doesn't matter what you sell. You could sell shoes or airtime or insurance or cars or real estate. Doesn't matter. But you exist as a salesperson to solve a very specific consumer customer problem. And if you're not, then get out and let's get the right people to come in and do the actual solutioning.
And you've just had almost slightly over a decade of experience.
It's about 14 years.
But you're like a Mercedes, 0 to 100. Take us through that journey. What are some of the choices, some of the relationships that you had within the period where you started to where you are right now?
That's a good question, and I need to give you a bit of context to it. So what are the relationships that I've had? I've been very lucky, to be honest. I consider myself one of the luckiest individuals. I happened to work for Unilever at a time when Unilever was a really dependable, training-driven, people-driven. I'm not saying they're not today, but at the time when I was there, it was a really, really great company that really cared for its people. And I had the pleasure of working for some of the best bosses that I've had the privilege of knowing. To date, a lot of my commercial acumen and a lot of my business acumen I got from bosses like people like Justin Apsey, who were my bosses at the time, Mark Engel. So moral of the story is I've really worked with some of the best bosses ever. And I do think one of the things I keep saying to date is that being a boss or being a leader of someone is a big privilege. And I think we should not take it lightly. Because if you think about it, you are somebody's boss even if you're somebody's boss for a year or 2 years, you spend a lot more time with that person than they do spend with their spouse, if you think about it, right?
Correct.
You have a lot more mind space in that person's life, and your impact in their life is probably is significant, right? You sign their performance development plans, you give them guidance, you give them direction, you give them feedback. Their salary, basically the kind of human being they become is dependent on you.
How did those relationships change how you look at yourself? Or how did they change how you approach situations moving forward?
That's a good question. So how did they change how I look at myself, and how did they change how I approach situations? So let's start with how I look at myself. I wasn't always a confident person growing up. Yeah. So this suit guy is an output of what I think is a lot of years of work, if I'm honest, right, on myself. And that's not by me. That's because of people that I worked with, both as bosses, both as colleagues, my parents, my spouse now, etc. Right. So I think if you put all that together, what they have helped me to do is they have helped me to see myself as a serious, useful, practical person who deserves the right to be here. I don't know if that makes sense.
It makes absolute sense.
And I do think we need to find a way of surrounding ourselves with people that affirm us, right? With people that tell us it's fine. It's okay, even if you failed yesterday, it's fine. Just
sometimes it's hard to find those people.
No, it is.
And a lot of young people who are watching maybe this interview and they're interested in, scaling their careers.
Yeah.
They're asking the question, how do you get in those rooms? How do you start speaking for yourself? How do you, sell yourself,
That's a good question. So let's do this question justice.
Okay.
It's a three-part question. So allow us to go through each part. So one is
real quick.
Yeah, real quick. Right.
Don't want to be left hanging.
We have. Yeah, but please let's give it 2 minutes. So young people looking at this and wondering, what was the first point? How do I get into those rooms?
How do they get into those rooms?
And how do
they sell?
How do I sell myself? So let's start with how you get into those rooms. I keep saying that I think the biggest and most important point is the first room, the first door. Forget all the other 10 doors that you have to go through. Your job as a young 19, 20-year-old is to find that one door. Let me give you my example, right? So I finished campus in 2014, which was 12 years ago, right? 12, 13 years ago. And the only door I needed to get into was a Unilever door, right? So the only work I did was do a lot of work to be an intern in Unilever. So I was an intern in Unilever before I became a management trainee. And so if you think about it, all I really needed to do to get into that world of Unilever was not to become a commercial director, was to do a really good job as an intern to get in. Then when you get in, then work your ass off. Do a really good job. The other door will take care of itself. The problem though is that young people today, and I see it a lot, especially I have nothing against Gen Z, please do not kill me, but I see it a lot with younger people today, which is you give somebody an opportunity and they literally squander it. They don't take it seriously, they come to work late, they don't work beyond whatever you've told them, they do what the job description says, they think working overtime is they're doing you a favor, they don't take time to learn, always on their phone, very digitally heavy, they're not very good with human beings, they're not very good with people. And I do think that those traditional skills are still extremely important today.
So a shift in mindset has to happen for them to actually move
That's
forward.
Number one.
Yeah.
That's number one. Mm-hmm. So that's, in my view, is how you get into those rooms.
Find one room. How do you leverage now?
Find one room. Find one room, get in
there.
Do a good job. Make sense?
Yes.
You're in the room. So how do you sell yourself, right? Which is what you asked, right?
Yes.
And I do think I have a lot to say, obviously, about how you sell yourself, just, given my sales background. I think there is 3 things you have to do to sell yourself correctly. One is believe in something. It doesn't matter what. Find something you care about deeply that you will talk about, because human beings are drawn towards belief. Passion, purpose, belief drives people, right? I mean, the lady who's hugging trees. How old is she? She's a very young lady.
Yes.
But we are all galvanizing around her because she believes in something, right? But she needed to believe in something first. Does that make sense? I feel like a preacher. But
I don't know.
But I do think believing in something.
Believing in yourself is one.
So that's number one. Once you believe, and by the way, it doesn't have to be something serious. It doesn't have to be like believe in the future of humanity. It could be believe in learning, believe in soap making. But it doesn't matter. That's the point I'm making.
Just believe in something.
But whatever you do, whatever you believe in, then don't just believe in it blindly. Do the work to be the best version of the person that believes in that something.
Is that two?
That's number two.
Okay.
So do the work and be the best version of yourself. So me, I believe that salespeople are trainable. I believe that sales is something that should be trained. I believe it's a science, and I believe that anybody can learn how to do sales. And I am now doing a lot of work to actually build that belief. That's the second point. And then the third point is surround yourself with people that will continue to make you a better version of yourself, right? So it's one thing to work on yourself, but if you're working on yourself in the middle of a forest in Turkana, well, there are no forests in Turkana, but you get my point.
Yes, exactly. But surrounding yourself, and I like that point.
Yeah.
Surrounding yourself with people that genuinely wish 100%, you well,
that wish you well, that make you better, right? So I'll give you an example, right? So you're a 19-year-old that only hangs out with other 19-year-olds who are from the same hood, that went to the same high school. You will become another 19-year-old from the hood, right? But if you're a 19-year-old or you're a 25-year-old or a 40-year-old that hangs out with people that you actually genuinely believe are better than you, that you actually genuinely believe you can learn something from. If you hang out with 4 thieves, you become the 5th, right? But if you hang out with 5 billionaires, chances are you'll probably be the 6th one, right?
But this journey of yours has not been linear. It couldn't have been linear.
No, not at all.
What are some of the things when you look back and you're saying, I should have done that differently. That was a mistake. What are some of the things that you look back and you say, I should have jumped that hurdle probably higher than I did?
That's a good question. There are 2 things I wish I try not to have regrets because they're not useful. But if you told me my story now and told me to go back 15 years ago and told me to do it again, there's 2 things I would do differently. One is I would jump into business faster. I would not spend 12 years in corporate because I've spent a year and a half now as a business person today, and I do think if I started it earlier, I think I would be a lot more forward. I think that's the first point.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think the second point is I still think I should have taken more risks. Even within the jobs I was at.
Are you serious?
I still think I should have taken more risks. Because the downside, when you work for a big corporate, the downside is very small. Because you are insured. Now today as a business person, there are some risks I can't take. Because I have payroll and I have employees, So now I have, but those days I had a company, right?
You were protected, you were shielded.
Yeah, so should have taken a bit more risks.
Before we wind up, I just want you to prepare like a parting shot that you would share with someone who is interested in scaling themselves, not necessarily in sales, but in their career. What should they do? Maybe 3 principles that they need to go by, or 3 principles that they need to look at, or 3 things that they need to start to use to reinvent themselves. But before we get to that parting shot, I want to ask you a real quick question. Spinach is to Popeye. What is to Kelvin Kuria?
That's a good question. Golf is to Kelvin Kuria. I love golf.
And you have to tell us why. Because we all know that businessmen, when they get to the at some stage in their life, they start playing golf. Why?
I'm a bit embarrassed that what I could come up with in the spur of the moment is golf. I mean, I could have chosen something a lot more useful, a lot more, a lot more.
It is useful. Oh my God, the networks and connections that happened.
No, because there is that. The connections are fantastic, but it's really it's a lovely game, right? You spend time under the sun, 4-5 hours walking. So I think it helps. You clear your brain, you clear your mind, you meet great people, and it's actually a really difficult sport. So for you to play it well, you actually have to be really, you have to have the spirit of continuous improvement, which is really what drives me, right? You know, just being slightly better today. You hit a bad shot now, you have to forget it, because if you don't forget it, you're going to hit the next shot badly as well.
Yeah.
I mean, so there's a lot of parallels between, please don't get me started on golf. And
No, we're not going to get you started.
Yeah.
We wanted to get right to the parting shots and talk to a young person out there and maybe just give them a little bit of guidance on what next steps they need to take to scale themselves in their career and sometimes even in their personal lives.
I hear you. Which camera am I looking at? Is that this camera?
Yes, this one.
Asante sana. Let me take this seriously. So you're a young person and you're thinking through your career and what your life becomes from here. I think you asked for 3 things, I'll give you 3 things. The first one I spoke about earlier, which was believe in yourself, right? There's something uniquely beautiful. People galvanize themselves around people who have a belief in something. Barack Obama became president because he said, yes, we can. And we all just galvanized around him. Show me a president anywhere that did not believe in something and I'll show you a failure. So believe in something. It doesn't matter what. It could be cabbages or spinach or pawpaw, as you say. Make sense? That's number 1. Number 2 is the only thing that I think separates everybody else from successful people is this thing called continuous learning. And I do think continuous learning is probably one of the most underrated skill sets in the world today. Continuous learning, in my view, is waking up in the morning and saying, today, I want to learn how to use AI Claude better, or use ChatGPT better. And it's not ChatGPT for chatting, but I really want to make sure that my business or my schoolwork is better because I am always learning, right? And it's not learning academics, it's not learning in school. It is learning things that are really life skills, right? Which is why we keep saying sales, for example, is a learnable skill and people should learn it. That's the second point. And then the third point is be careful with what you wish for. Let me explain. I have always known that I wanted to one day run my own business and influence how industries work. Right? I knew that one day, if I did a really good job, I would influence how industries relate, right? Today, I'm busy, setting that up and trying to be that version of myself, right? If I hadn't had a wish and I had just sat around, or if I had wished to not be a successful person, if I had wished for not as much success as I want right now, I would probably have been that person, because words have a very deep impact in who we become. So be careful what you wish for.
I agree with you because the Bible says that we have been created in the image of God. And God used words to create all these things. So the power of the tongue.
Be careful what you wish for.
Be careful what you wish for. And I think you need to have a teachable spirit as well.
Yeah.
You talk about if you're going to be constantly learning, then you must have a teachable spirit. Yeah,
you have to be, so yesterday I was thinking about, so what do I want to do next? I think I'm going to do a master's in psychology.
Go for it.
Super excited about it. Moral of the story is always be learning.
Always be learning.
Always be learning.
I think that's a good place to wrap this up. This conversation can go on social media because Kelvin is, he says he's not a guru of sales, but he's a guru of content. You can find him on TikTok. Where do we find you on TikTok?
Find me on TikTok. I'm in many platforms, but I think my core platform where I only do and talk about sales is on my TikTok platform. My name is Kelvin Kuria. I think we're at 30,000 or something like that.
34.
Followers. Thank you very much. 34,000 followers. But who's counting?
No one's counting.
But my intention, to be honest, is to be the voice of reason in the space of sales. And so, if you'd like to connect, let's talk on TikTok.
All right. That brings us to the end of TV 47 Prime. Thank you so much, Kelvin Kuria. And thank you for staying here with us for that very important conversation. Remember, you have to continue learning. You have to believe in something. Have that teachable spirit, and we'll see you at the other side of your success. I'm Wakio Mzenge. Have yourself a good night.
Peace.